Thank you, Erica. All right, so people are still trickling in. We'll give it 10 more seconds and then we'll get started. All right, welcome everyone to week 3 of the Spring 2021 Career Speaker Series. The Career Speaker Series is sponsored by the College of Marin, the Marin County Office of Education, and the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. The Career Speaker Series will be held from 4 to 5 p.m. on Wednesdays through May 5th. Today's program will cover the topics of the solar industry and construction. And before we get started, I'm going to have all of our participants and our moderator introduce themselves. So we'll just go in the order of the PowerPoint here. So my name is Sita Williams, and I work for the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay.
And hi there, I'm Erica Green. I'm with the Marin County Office of Education Workability Program.
My name is Kasia, Kajdas, and I work for SunPower as an interconnection and incentives manager.
My name is Renee Solari, and I also work for SunPower.
My name is Chadi Depelchin. I work for the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission as a utility specialist.
Hello, my name is Sean Ticknor. I'm the executive director and founder of Big Skills Tiny Homes, but I can also speak to being a structural engineer. So I'll talk a little bit about that, as well as being a nonprofit guy.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to be here today to speak to our students and our job seekers and our educators. We will be recording this webinar, everyone, so if you'd like to view it at a later time, please email me. So you ask, why are we having a career speaker series? We're having a career speaker series because we'd like to expose you to some of our local professional experts. We'd like to introduce you to jobs that you may not have heard about before. And we'd like to help you make informed decisions about the next steps in your career path. What to expect today? The presentation hour will include an introduction like we're doing right now, speaker presentations, and then question and answer time. Please use the chat function of the webinar to ask your questions. Webinar registration. If you can register for all 10 of the Career Speaker Series webinars, you can just register with the main registration link for any of the topics on the list here. We'll be sure to put that link in the chat. If you have any questions, please let one of us know. We'll make sure we have our email addresses in the chat too. Thanks so much, everybody. And with that, I'm gonna hand the mic over to Kasia and Renee.
Thank you.
And then go ahead and stop sharing your screen. There we go.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
It looks great.
Okay, I'm going to start. This is Renee. Thanks so much for having the opportunity to talk to you about what I think is probably the most exciting industries is about solar. Solar can be built anywhere in the world as long as there's sun. And there are over 2,000 solar companies in California. But I want to tell you a little bit about SunPower, since we have 2 people here talking to you today, and actually your third solar speaker did work at SunPower, Chadi. So SunPower is a really big solar company. In fact, we have a lot of solar systems in a lot of school districts, and you may actually have a carport, which looks like what's behind me, out in your parking lot. If you do, go there sometime, get your binoculars and see if you see a SunPower label. It may be a SunPower product and SunPower who built it. So SunPower does a lot of things. The first thing we do is we do planning, and we go to commercial companies, school districts, businesses. We also do residential on the side, but I'm in the commercial side. And we help develop a project. What is possible? How big of a system do you need? How much money do you need to save? Do you need help paying for it? So that's a lot of the initial work that's done if there's someone who's interested in solar. The development side is in figuring all the answers, is what are the technical requirements for putting solar at a site? What type of product will work there? What are the limitations? What is the planning? All these kind of things. We have people who do that development work. And that's actually some of the work that Kasia did previously before her position she's doing now. I mentioned about financing. So financing is if an entity doesn't have the money to be able to purchase a system outright, then we provide support in finding other organizations who actually have the money, who will essentially buy the system so that the customer, where the solar is, will pay a reduced price in their electricity. And that's their benefit, is that they have a predictable, reduced price of electricity for 20 years. And for school districts, that could be more than $1 million every year. So you can see why it's a very attractive opportunity for school districts. Procurement is, like it says, procure, to buy. So we also buy all of the materials to develop the project. And the next one is installation. We have some folks internally, but we also hire a lot of subcontractors to build, electricians, there'll be welders, there'll be people who do underground work and evaluation. And then we also do the grid connection. So these are all the requirements that allow a solar system to be installed at a site, because we are actually working with the utility. In most cases, where all you live is probably PG&E, and Kasia will talk a little bit more about that. And then that last one, operation, it means that once a system is built and installed, we have to make sure that it's going to produce all of the solar electricity that it says it will. I can't really see folks, but I am curious of how many people have solar. So maybe in the chat, do you have solar where you live, in a building or your home, or you have at your school? If you could just say yes in the chat, and we'll see how many people. Lots. Okay, that's exciting. Now I know why you're here. So what's SunPower? So what you're seeing now is a slide that we often talk to our potential customers to give them a sense of why SunPower could be a really good company to work with. There are lots to choose from. So some of the things that we feel proud about is, one, that we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience, then you have a sense that, okay, they've been around, they know how to work through the problems because they've worked through the problems. So that's the 35 years experience that we have. 1.1 gigawatts. So first you have the smallest unit is a watt, then a kilowatt and a megawatt, and then a gigawatt. But that's a very big number that maybe doesn't mean anything to you. That could serve over 300,000 homes. So that's how many systems we've installed, or how much PV we've installed. And PV is for photovoltaic. SunPower is a publicly traded company. So if you're someone who's interested in investing in the stock market, you can go look and say, how much is a SunPower stock? And our symbol is SPWR, and you can see what that is. We are also known for having really, really good performance, meaning the systems we install, when we say they're going to produce a certain amount of electricity, they do. And we provide a guarantee so that you can feel really comfortable that what we say it's going to produce over. And actually in the chat, can you guys guess what is the average amount of time that a solar panel can work in a solar system? And as they pop up, I'll let you know after the slide, and then I'll pass it over. Okay, we have a few of them. Okay, you guys are pretty good. Okay, well, I can see all of you realize how long solar panels can work. And in fact, we provide a warranty that's 20 years, but it is known that some panels can function up to 40 years, which is unbelievable. So it means that for me in my home, I have solar. It will only take about 5 or 6 years for me of savings of my electricity to pay for what my original cost of solar was. So if my system is going to be guaranteed to work for 20 years, but it's paid for itself in 6 years. That's 14 years of free electricity. So you can see it's really compelling to do. And then besides all the other amazing things about solar, about it being about related to climate and greenhouse gas emissions and offering lots of jobs to people in all kinds of areas. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. We're headquartered in the US and we have about 800 full-time employees. So I can answer some questions later and I'm gonna pass it over to Kasia.
So let me tell you about myself and how I ended up at SunPower. When in high school, I had a few ideas of what I wanted to do. I like math, so one of my ideas was to further my knowledge in mathematics. However, I didn't really know what job I can do with a degree in mathematics. Then my second idea was to join Army, but that was more of thinking it's cooler rather than more practical. And my last final idea was to study architecture, as I got inspired by a couple that I did babysitting for. It seems like their lifestyle was really cool. They seem very happy, relaxed, and having a good life. So since then, I researched colleges and ended up going to UC Berkeley and majoring in architecture. As you can see, my career path was very long before I got to SunPower. Since I graduated in 2009, there was no jobs available in architecture or construction. I got very lucky and got an internship with the city building and planning department. There, I was able to learn a lot about permitting and city regulations. When I was doing my internship, I kept looking for a full-time job. And I found one at a solar company as a permit runner, given my experience working at a permitting agency. At the time, solar companies were hiring people from different backgrounds. I worked and still do with very skilled engineers, musicians, marketers, and even social workers. Since solar industry, when it was new at the time, there was really no degree in photovoltaics or renewables. During my time at different companies, I learned about SunPower as I worked for SunPower's dealers. Since then, I knew I want to be part of SunPower, as their product was superior and always innovative. After a few years and different solar and non-solar companies, I was able to finally get hired by SunPower. So I work as interconnection and incentives manager. For me, every day is different. One day I'm filling out online interconnection applications. Other days I need to work directly with my team and with the utility team to make sure we are on the same page when it comes to understanding rules and regulations, as every project and case is different. You might think it is meaningless and boring since I have to spend most of my time in front of a computer filling out online applications. However, it is very important because I'm responsible for interconnecting solar to utility grid without causing any explosions or fire. And Renee, back to you.
Okay, thanks. So there's a lot, we work with a lot of high school students, and part of the questions that we get are what kind of jobs is it going to be? Are there going to be a lot of solar jobs when I'm interested in it? And it's a good question to ask because you want to feel like the work that you spend in either going to vocational school or college is going to make you value, it's going to give you an opportunity to work in the solar industry. And there's tons of jobs. So that's the message. There are over 74,000 jobs in the solar industry in California. And we're the #1. I mean, yes, we have a big state, but we also have a really friendly solar state. We want to build solar because we know it's one of the greatest sources. It allows for it to be in all kinds of communities. It's super reliable, it lasts a long time, and the cost is going down. So on the right, solar jobs by sector. So it's kind of giving us a sense of what are the types of jobs. So we mentioned obviously installation is a pretty obvious one, but we also have manufacturing. So building of all of the components, which also could be batteries that are going with solar systems now, as well as other kind of products that go with it. On the distribution side, we have operations and maintenance people. And then of course, like Kasia, people who are more STEM inclined, so engineers can work in lots of different areas. So those are the kind of jobs. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is the one I think most high school and college students are super interested in. Is like, okay, well, I'm kind of interested in this, but is that a job that's going to pay me money, a wage that will help me as an adult if I want to have a family? So I actually provide this so that you have a really good sense. So this is San Francisco Bay Area, average entry level, so meaning commonly out of a vocation or college, job salaries. So you could see to the right, electrical engineer is really common, mechanical engineer, civil engineer. Those are the three most common engineers that work at SunPower and all solar companies. Obviously, an accountant is important in any business that you work in. Sales is important in any business. And then marketing is at entry level. Most of these are STEM based. So even if you don't actually study engineering, but you have your kind of STEM associated, a lot of these jobs will be available to you. A project manager, I actually was a project manager. My background was social work, so I really learned the technical side, but there's a lot of people who come from the construction trades or engineering who become project managers. So you see construction installation, electrician, software developer, administrative assistant, and technicians. So, and I think that's the last slide for us.
Well, that was so interesting. Does anyone have any questions? It seemed like you have a lot of experience, and what made you just land where you are? Like, how did you know it was what you wanted to do?
Is that for me or for Kasia?
Sure. Yeah, you're the one I see right now. Sorry.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Well, I think the real reason is because my last name is Solari. So there had to be something that I had to get into that industry. It was destiny, I guess. I did start as an installer, and that was a pretty great area. It was when the solar industry was much younger. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel like whatever my job was, is I was going to contribute and do something that helped the environment and the climate. And it certainly did. And that was my motivation. And so as an installer, I got connected because I was really good friends with someone, and he was in a solar company. And I guess that's a good point to make, is having a really great network of friends where you are really accountable to what you say you're going to do. Really gave me the invite to come and work for this company. And I really attribute that to that experience.
Well, the questions are flying in now. So some people are asking about college and how many years. I think there's a variety of green building and solar things within college programs. I've seen them popping up everywhere. And I would like to get you information, but I don't have it on the tip of my computer right now, but please email us and we can get you some information from the most local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's go ahead, Sita.
Oh yeah, Renee, do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, Santa Rosa Junior College, Diablo Valley Junior College actually have programs that cater to folks who are interested in the solar industry, but going into areas that could be physics, any kind of engineering, certainly going into vocation like IBEW, which is electrician, are really great ways to start to get involved. Again, even if you're not STEM inclined, having experience where you could be a policy researcher, you could work in marketing. I worked in education and now I'm a trainer. So there really are lots of ways to get involved in the solar industry. If you have a passion about something, you can find a place in the solar industry.
Well, this one fits good with that. What do you think the most important piece or job in the solar industry is?
Kasia, do you have or even Chad, do you have a perspective on that?
There's a lot of jobs. I think it depends more on what you're interested in. If whatever interests you, you will find the job. That's what I would say.
And then we have a question about internships, and I'm sure that we can put some information. The best thing to do for high school students is to check in with your career centers because they often know about internships, your school or your career counselor.
And I know, Renee, sometimes you do host interns at SunPower
Yeah.
at various times. I don't know if the pandemic has you know, shut things down for a little while, but if you could give us a little update on that.
Yeah, well, one, if you can get an internship, it's an amazing experience. One, just what you end up learning, and you have real like work-based learning, which is the best kind of learning, and you get to meet people and people get to meet you. And you can do that in high school. So SunPower has had a few, not a lot. We've had high school students, we have paid some. We've actually had some where we didn't pay them because they were part of a program with high school. But if you're interested in it, it's really cool and to ask. If you know someone who works for a solar company and say, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to volunteer, is there an opportunity? It is nice if your high school or career program does actually support internships, because they make it easier for employers to bring you into their workplace. So that goes back to what Erica and Sita were saying.
And one of your typical days, what would that might look like?
Maybe you could each answer that.
Yeah, Kasia, that's a good one for her. She has a much more technical role.
Sure. So typical, like each day is different. So I start my day with checking my emails and checking my calendar to see how many meetings I have and what meetings I do have to, let's see if I have to prepare something or find out information that's going to be asked of me. So I usually before each meeting, I reach out to the utilities to see if there are any status updates on my projects that I cover. So I have that communication usually before the meetings and after the meetings. When I have, let's say, free time, I just keep updating our internal data to make sure it's all communicated throughout different platforms. So this is pretty much typical related to communication with utilities, updating the database to make sure everyone at SunPower knows where the project is, and responding to emails and communicating with my peers.
Well, here's a question I'm going to combine. Did I cut anyone off? No? Okay. Best way to get into this type of work, and what type of experience do you think they're looking for or that the person would need?
So if there's one organization and you know, it'd be worth checking in with them now just to get familiar with them, called Grid Alternatives. I think one must be older, but I think they have an occasion where they allow for folks under 18 to actually learn how to build a solar system. And I'll actually, because someone can type that in, Grid Alternatives, into the chat, you can see. So getting experience it just makes you stand out on your resume. Also, the College of Marin, I should have mentioned them when I was listing them, has a couple amazing teachers that talk about solar and battery. Some of those classes are available to high school students. Having that on your resume, one, gives you a leg up on understanding issues of either technical things, being able to build hands-on things. If you do projects that are hands-on, there was a student that I knew who figure out how to design and build a solar powered sign for the Marin Airport. That type of stuff makes you stand out because it shows, one, you have initiative, you're self-motivated, you're technically competent. And those are a lot of the qualities that I look at when I'm trying to hire people. Is not just what they've done, but what is it, what do they do as it represents what kind of employee they will be.
So I'm gonna, before you hand it over, I'm gonna ask one more question. Hopefully I didn't miss any, about how things have changed with the pandemic.
From my perspective, I just get to work from home and nothing else really changed, as SunPower is a very big company and we have multiple offices. So telecommunicating, we've done it before the pandemic. So the only difference is I don't have to wake up and get ready in the morning, and everything else is staying the same. We're still communicating via Zoom and an email. So it's just, I think for me, it's a little bit better.
Yeah. I actually will answer the question for people who work in the field, the folks who install, the folks that are doing the maintenance and troubleshooting, that we had a couple months where we had to figure out what are all the COVID safety requirements. But the position of SunPower is, we've all heard the term now, essential work. If you think about it, food is essential. Everyone needs it to live, but energy is also essential. It's part of our infrastructure. Without having reliable energy, which includes solar, we're having a hard time. So because of that, SunPower got to be able to go back into the field and continue to do its work. So it was a tough year to get through, but we've actually done quite well.
Well, I hope we got through all the questions, and I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to our next speaker. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Chadi, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to speak about my experience. And I would like to start just by pointing out that relationships and networking really, really count. Just by pointing out that my start in the solar industry was with a company called Powerlight, and the person that trained me was Renee Solari. So it's a big circle, 20 years later, Renee calls me and I'm right here. So relationships and networking are very important for your entire life, I would say, not just your career, but your life. And so my start was as a laborer, simply, and when I started in the solar industry, there was no training, there was no manual. I mean, there were some books to read and stuff, but it wasn't as developed as it is now. And the one thing that really helped me was that I was willing to go and teach myself and learn and solve problems without anybody telling me what to do. And I just remember one time asking Renee a question, and she just said, Google it. And that was all I needed, because I just went from that point forward. All I did was Google, and resolve all my problems. And if I did have a problem that I couldn't resolve, I would come up with 3 possible solutions and think about what those solutions would do for the project that we're working on. And it was very simple for Renee to help me, because I would give her the 3 possible solutions, and she would immediately realize that I've thought them through and I understand the implications of each solution. And she'd say, go with 1 or 2, and that was it. So, and that creates a level of trust between myself and Renee, to the point where Renee never checked on me. She just would give me a task, and she would not have to think about it. And the value of that is really, really important, that people can rely on a basic conversation and know that a problem will be resolved, or that you'll come back and have a conversation if you have a problem. So because of my attitude, or let's say can-do attitude, or my determination to make it, I was quickly promoted to a project management position, which is really unlikely with that kind of speed. I think it was maybe 2 years of being a laborer to site manager to construction manager to project manager, and then building the largest solar systems at the time, which is totally unlikely. I would have never imagined it in any world that I would have been doing that. So project management is not an easy job. Essentially, all problems that have not been thought through end up on your plate, and you have to be able to deal with changes. It's not something that you do every day and it's the same thing. It changes all the time, and the pressure is unrelenting. You know, as we like to say, that the problems will be there tomorrow, so just go home and sleep, because you know you'll wake up and the problem will be waiting for you. So that's project management, and I did that for a decade at least. And I followed my, how would you say, my, let's see, I moved around the country, and I took opportunities to do challenging projects. I don't know if I took the opportunity or the challenging project was put in my lap. It's probably a bit of both. And I used my background and skills to put myself in a position where I could take advantage of opportunities, such as working not just in the US, but in Europe and Asia and Africa. And in every instance, my determination to just resolve a problem is what really would push me through. And that's what I want to stress to everybody, especially at your age, which I'm so envious of. You really are in a position where you can achieve anything that you want. It's just about, you know, your determination, and if you can imagine it, you can definitely do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't, because that was one thing. I remember telling an engineer once that I had a problem, and before I gave him the problem, I told him he only had one option. He had to say yes, he can resolve it. And sometimes that is the situation, and it can be very stressful, and you have to break it down into bite-sized pieces and just keep moving day by day. So project manager, let's see, what else can I say? I don't know if I'm rambling, but feel free to cut me off and give me questions.
I was going to compliment you on your great advice. That could be used for any career and in any situation, but it also shows that it was your hard work that got you to move so quickly up in the ladder.
And the people. And it's just a bit more about my background. You know, what I did in college has no relation to what I ended up doing as a career. I studied integrative biology at UC Berkeley, and I wanted to be a marine biologist. And when I finished, I realized that's not what I wanted to do, and decided to just go looking for other things that would interest me. And I just kept following my passion and just followed my interests. Before I got my job that first job in the solar industry, I think I had 5 different jobs. And I would race all over the Bay Area to do each one. And I had like a schedule that was, you know, all over the place, all night, working day and night. And when I had the opportunity to join Powerlight as a basic laborer, I had the choice of either taking a job as a cable guy or a laborer, you know, pushing panels around, not knowing what that was about. And I'm happy to say I took the solar job, which really opened up many opportunities, primarily because nobody knew anything about solar. Nobody knew it was construction, but it was definitely new. And that's where sort of being open to learning new things and being flexible when things changed is what really made me somewhat successful. And that same sort of can do self-taught attitude is still driving me today, because my current position is project management, but there's an element of it which requires a lot of reading and very hard reading, because there's an element of decarbonizing our grid in California that I have to look at. And again, this is something new. It's never before been done. It's related to climate change, and there's a lot of how would you say? There's a lot to learn. There's no playbook. So again, teaching myself is all I do all day. And I've gotten this position simply because I maintain my relationships everywhere. And there is something that, in terms of relationships and networking, that I would like to underline, which is that the people that you know in your everyday life, you know what they can do for you already. Talking to them, you're not going to learn something new from them. And the only way you're going to succeed is by reaching out to people that you might not necessarily talk to every day or every week or every month or every 6 months or every year. Talk to the people that you haven't talked to in a long time. Just let them know what you're doing, find out what they're up to, and put the word out. And it does work. Eventually, people spread the word. And so what I would say is keep meeting new people, force yourself to be uncomfortable, and try and get to know something new. Go to a different city. Go and hang out with people that you might not hang out with. Talk to somebody's parents that you might not know.
You touched on a lot of the questions that were coming in as they were coming in. And you talked a little bit about what your day looks like and what a project manager does. And then there was a question about what are the specific job titles at SunPower? And that was one of the questions, education and training.
So that would go to Renee and Kasia.
And we only have, we have a few more minutes, so we won't take that many more questions.
So Chadi, were you finished with that thought? Do you want to wrap it up? Okay.
I'm done. I'm good. I'll take questions if there are any.
Okay, great. So I guess the question was about the job titles, and actually we could expand that, some of the job titles that are in, public utility and project managing, that the different, the spectrum. And then also if Kasia and Renee want to add to that too, just so people know what to look up.
I would make one distinction between working in the public sector versus the private sector. The private sector is such as SunPower, is very fast-paced, while the public sector has a very strict bureaucracy that forces you to slow down and do things within a certain norms. So it's not for everybody, and each one is different. So that's what I would say.
And this is one of our favorite questions. What advice would you give to your younger self at the start of your career? It's a hard one, but it is one of our favorites.
Go faster.
My quick answer is, Chadi already said a little bit of this, but I wish I had been a little bit more courageous in just trying things that I didn't think I was interested in, or if I thought it was like uncool or uninteresting, but just tried it anyway. I just wish I had explored all of the amazing options that high school and colleges offer, like clubs, like classes. You just never know when you're gonna find the thing that is so much more meaningful to you. And unless you put yourself in a position of discovery, it's going to be harder to find.
Yeah, maybe if I may, if you're coming out of high school or you're going to college, just imagine that you're applying for, you're filling out your college application, and so it's something new. You have to you have to read it, you have to fill it out, you have to write your essay, you have to collect recommendations. My job function is pretty much the same. It's just a different subject. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of interpretation, there's a lot of getting buy-in from other people that I have to work with. So it's the same skill that you use for that. It's just going to be a different subject.
Well, that was very, very, very nice to hear. All that different makes me want to go have that job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much for your time. And if anyone needs to log off, that's fine. But going over to big skills, little houses. And I'll let Sean introduce himself.
That was close. That was a good try. Big skills,
Okay.
tiny homes. You know,
Tiny homes,
good
okay.
try. And I really couldn't have offered or asked for a better introduction. I mean, because what Big Skills Tiny Homes is all about is trying different things, trying different skills, and seeing what works for your personality. So I've got a lot of things to talk to, a lot of things to talk about. You know, I founded a nonprofit called Big Skills Tiny Homes. There's a whole career arc to talk about there, and what does it take to found a company and to make it, push it into reality. But I'll take a moment to talk about Big Skills Tiny Homes being a place where people build a tiny house to learn construction skills. They get to try almost all aspects of building in a short 9-month process, because they get to do the carpentry, the cabinetry, the electrical, the plumbing, the tile, the roof, et cetera, et cetera. They get to learn about all that stuff. And then they get to reflect and do career planning about what things match their personality. Which of those things jived with me? Was it the solar? Was it the plumbing? What was it? I know that's a lot of stuff. I'm gonna share the finished tiny house from a year ago. So 3 students and myself completed this tiny house in the course of 9 months, but only in the mornings. But we worked Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till lunchtime, building this tiny house. And the students worked on every single part of this thing. They worked on the kitchen, they worked on the bathroom. We used reclaimed redwood to make those shelves, and the desk and the table there on the right was reclaimed from the side of somebody's house. We demoed it off the side of somebody's house, and we used that to make that the table that's flipping up and down right now. They got a chance to do all the custom furniture. They got a chance to do, of course, the painting, the drywall, the patching, and all the things hidden behind the walls, the electrical wires, the plumbing pipes. We got a chance to build all that stuff. And part of it, we bring in experts to talk about what their daily lives are like, to talk about their professions, to talk about their expertise. And then in non-COVID years, we also do field trips. We go to job sites, we go to solar locations, we go to large construction sites and small construction sites and educators. You know, all these things are kind of going on all at the same time. And what's really nice about spending that amount of time with somebody is I get to know them and I can vouch for them. So I have every single one of my students stuck with the program. We had 100% student retention, and every single student who wanted a job got a job. You know, if you are working with me for 9 whole months and you show up every day on time, I can get you a job doing what you want to do. No doubt about it. So we got to do some tile in the bathroom there. There's the close-up of the tile. That worked out well. A little tiny sink. The mirror, oh, there's my arm. It's a great build and a great project. Of course, it highly affected our plan with COVID in terms of exactly how we were able to raise money and recruit students. But it was a really exciting and joyful project and process to work very closely with. I work with 4 students at a time, and we work There's almost 800 hours of instruction. So it's super intensive, working half-time for a full school year. I do want to say a couple words about what I did before being an executive director, which is essentially the CEO of a nonprofit. They call them executive directors. I don't know why, but that's what they do. I worked as a structural engineer, which I highly recommend. I love being a structural engineer. That was a branch of civil engineering from the previous slide. So I have a degree in civil engineering with an emphasis in structural, which had me designing bridges and retaining walls and drainage structures for large municipalities. So the city of San Jose, the city of Richmond, Orinda, et cetera. And you spent most of your time in the office, probably 90% of your time was in the office, and then a small amount of time on the construction sites. But it was extremely satisfying because people would spend lots and lots and lots of money to build what you told them to build. And it's there, and I can drive over bridges that I've designed, and it's very cool. It's very cool. It's very satisfying. But you're in the office. So I definitely switched to doing something where I'm in the office less and in the field more. So I would love to switch gears and to answer questions, as I know there's some out there.
Sean, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about the program, how old the students should be and what they should expect as far as commitment.
Great question. So the students need to be 18 or over, no minors, no experience whatsoever, and a commitment. They need to commit. I mean, it's a big commitment for nine whole months to be there in the mornings. That's a big commitment, no doubt about it. But I'm committed to them, and I will be in touch with them for years. I am in touch with all of my students. I guess I send them texts. That's what they want, so that's what they get. We text once a month to see how it's going and to check in, make sure things are on track.
And I remember that you saying that it was a free program. It didn't cost anything to participate, but that you also didn't necessarily pay while they were in the program. And one of the questions, which I was going to mention too, was
before we move on from the money, that's an important thing. Yes, there is no tuition. Those who successfully complete are awarded a scholarship, a $2,500 scholarship for successful completion, which of course is not anywhere near a wage to be paid, but it's also not nothing. So I wanted to mention that.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for jumping in there. To explain where you do this kind of work, and I know you've switched around, but and you do sometimes, but go ahead and tell us where you are now.
Yes, I am in Fairfax. I'm in Fairfax, in a parking lot in Fairfax. That's where I'm working right now.
And when is the next round? Does it start? When is the applications? And
we're accepting applications now, and the next cohort will start in September.
And you can find the application on your website?
Yes, bigskillstinyhomes.org.
Great.
Okay, I'll look it up for everybody.
The salaries. Okay, hold on. You guys are asking questions here. I want to go to this one, and I know it's not in order, but how did Big Skills Teeny Homes start? And then I do have some logistic questions about the careers in this field.
Big Skills Tiny Homes, essentially a light bulb moment for me. This is my own invention. I've been working as a structural engineer and seeing that across the board, everybody needs more good skilled labor. Everybody, top to bottom, they're looking for good skilled labor. I got two boys, they're in the schools here, and the schools tell them they got to go to college. And I'm telling you, the plumber and the electrician make more than I do, for sure.
Okay, so that kind of brings us up to that question about the salaries that people in the field get and what education do you need? So you're saying, you know, there's a different level depending on your education and.
Absolutely. So people are certainly starting in the, you know, 20 to 30 to $40 per hour is probably general starting salary for people in the trades. Varies a lot. And then the people who are making the big money are the people who own their own companies, who are bidding the projects and have people working for them. And they're making, really, there's no limit. Certainly well over six figures.
Okay, so back to the program. Everyone's very interested in it. What do the students do on a daily work day? Great question.
It's a great question, and I dare to share my screen. Here is a time lapse of a whole year in like 3 minutes. So we start with general framing. We start with framing. We start with cutting 2x4s and stick framing the house. And then we just move through the whole project. I'll skip forward up. Now, look, we're doing siding and windows. I'll skip forward again. Now we're inside. We're doing similar to drywall. We did some very thin plywood on the inside. And look, we're starting to build cabinets. And I skipped over the plumbing and the electrical. That's already in the walls. Then we start doing tile. And then we start doing trim. And so it varies. It's super, super, super varied. We start with the trailer and sticks, and we end with that tiny house I showed in the beginning. So it's super varied, plus guest speakers, plus field trips, but those are small amounts, probably 2 or 3 per month of the guest.
And then someone took my question. What happened with the houses when you're done with them?
So the first year, the one you saw was sold. That one was sold. To do it again. This year, super exciting. They're going to good causes. So we actually gave one already to the Youth Empowerment Village in Oakland. It's there right now. It's in Oakland. Somebody's living there. Somebody who would otherwise be homeless is living there. It's thrilling. The one we're building right this very moment is going to somebody whose home burned down on September 8th. So somebody who lost their home in the Bear Fire. This tiny house we're building now will be, it's on a trailer. So we just hook it to a truck and we take it up to Berry Creek. And then this guy's got his land. He's got a well, he's got a septic system, but he was underinsured or not insured. He can't afford to rebuild. This puts him back on his land, back in his community. And honestly, I don't know what I'm doing next year. I'm weighing different options. COVID totally threw me off. I don't know exactly what's the right business model. We'll build a tiny house. I love giving them to good causes. Hopefully I can do that. If I can afford it, that's what we'll do. If we can't afford it, we'll sell it. But hopefully it will go to another fire victim. I love that because I know who they are and I know where it's going. So I can talk to the guy, be like, oh, you got dogs. All right, we got a dog door on this one. All right, we need a loft with lots of space for dogs. It's like a dog loft in this one. And he's
so someone had a question about how much you would sell it for if you did sell it.
I would sell it for, I think that's probably worth around $90,000. It's got 40 grand worth of stuff and 600 hours of labor. So it's probably worth 90. We did not, the one you saw did not sell for that. It was in the middle of COVID and it was sold on the internet. So we did not get that level. So tens of thousands of dollars.
So there's some great questions. You guys killing me here. What is the takeaway I would get after doing this program? And will I learn new skills? And then there's a few of them about how to get in there and apply and what you're looking for.
You would learn a ton of skills. You're not going to come out an expert in anything, but you're going to come out with a pretty good base level of knowledge. You're going to know how to use a table saw, a miter saw, a skill saw, a jigsaw. You're going to know the difference between an impact driver and a drill. You're going to know how to strip wires. You're going to know how to wire a plug. You're going to know how to cut tile. You're going to know how to grout tile. You're going to know how to do the basics of trim. You're going to know how to flash a window. And so many skills. I can't list them all. Yes, you're going to learn a ton.
Okay, well, I hope that answered how to apply. That's right there on the website.
Yeah, I'll make sure that. Oh yeah, the link is there. There's the link. I think I saw it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And And then you're taking them now. I heard you say that. And we have a question about how do you raise money for these projects? Very good question.
Fantastic question. That's a nonprofit question. The nonprofit industry, 75% individual donors. And then the rest is about 15% is grants, 10% is government grants, 5% corporate giving. And we're more or less in that line, and mostly individual donors. So we ask for tax deductible donations and we apply for grants.
That is, that's really a great program. I'm very excited to hear more about it. Let's close this out with a piece of advice you give someone who might want to do this type of work.
Yeah, maybe each of our speakers could.
Yeah, that's a good
with
one.
Sean. And then each of our speakers, we can close out with a piece of advice for our students or something that you know, if you could affect the world or, you know, share something that might help a young person or somebody who's starting a new career, any age, that you've learned, please share.
All right, I got two things for you. One, think about how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time? You want to sit at a desk in front of a computer interacting and communicating? Do you want to spend your time working with your hands? Do you want to spend your time with your friends? How do you want to spend your time? You should think about that. This is important. That's what you're doing. Spend a lot of time working. Think about how you want to spend your time. Number two, you don't have to decide forever. You just have to decide for now. You got to pick something. So don't let yourself just do nothing. Pick something to spend your time now. And you can change your mind. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say follow your passion and do what you love to do, and then work. It's not going to be just work. You're going to do every day what you love to do.
Thank you.
Great advice.
I would say network and meet as many new people as you possibly can and tell them what you're looking for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to our speakers. Does anybody have a burning question or comment, or are you feeling pretty complete?
Well, it looks like you got a lot of thank yous and very, very interested students. So some of you may hear from these, some of these participants today.
Yeah, if you're open to sharing your contact information with our participants, please type your contact information in the chat. No pressure at all. So we'll just give it a second here. Okay, so I'm gonna just close us out then. Thank you so very much to our speakers and Renee, who's not here and had to leave at 15:02. We're so appreciative that you would take this time out of your day to come and share with our youth and our job seekers so that they can make informed decisions about, you know, school, about training, about what they want to do with their life, and all that advice is gold. So thank you so very much. And if you ever, you know, want to come back, please let us know. And we appreciate the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So thanks so much, everybody. I'm going to stay online. If you have any questions, I'll hang out until everybody's gone. And otherwise, have a good evening. Bye, everyone. Thanks to our speakers again.
Bye-bye.